Hello and welcome to my two-part lamenting farewell to Filmstruck. For the uninitiated, Filmstruck was a streaming service that ran from 2016, I believe, until the end of November 2018. I can't remember the exact date, but I'm pretty sure it was the very end of November 2018. Filmstruck closed its doors, figuratively speaking, and literally at the same time, I suppose. But for us, it was a screen in which to watch great movies, and nothing more than that. And then the harsh realities of the real corporate world came crashing down, and Time Warner, I believe, stepped in and said, "We're done with that. We're gonna cancel Filmstruck, and you can say goodbye to your niche market of classic films." And I don't know where else they're going to repurpose the money they were spending on that. I don't know any of the particulars when it comes to the business of that side of things, obviously, but it just seemed like a great shame and a little bit of a slap in the face, because Filmstruck just seemed to be going from strength to strength. And when it first launched, it seemed like an incredible service. You know, you could very broadly describe it as Netflix for film lovers. Not that people who have Netflix aren't film lovers, but I'm talking about like hardcore cinephiles, movie aficionados. We're talking about Criterion Collection level stuff. And literally, the Criterion Collection partnered with Filmstruck, so Filmstruck were acquiring films from certain areas. I think they even teamed up with TCM at one point, towards the end there actually, but also they had the Criterion channel on Filmstruck, so you could pay for two different services. And the second part of this kind of farewell to Filmstruck will be me going and giving you a walkthrough of Filmstruck as it was just before it closed down. So I might cover some of that in that video too. I can't remember because I recorded that obviously back in November, so it's been a good 6 weeks or so since I recorded that section. But regardless, you could have the Filmstruck tier, or you could have the Filmstruck and the Criterion channel. And even with both of those, you were only talking $9.99 a month. And for me, it was a no-brainer. Obviously, being in the other side of the world, not in America, I had to use different means to access this streaming service, and it was a little bit rocky at the beginning, but I soon stuck with it and discovered some incredible films. And I want to talk a little bit about that, and I want to talk a little bit about how I have tried to preserve Filmstruck in my own special, perhaps not quite ethical way. We'll get to that in the second part of this video, but I wanted to talk about how much I loved Filmstruck, how much I appreciated that it was a real film lovers streaming service. These weren't just great classic movies from, you know, all over the world and all different time periods, from silent movies with Harold Lloyd to French New Wave stuff to Japanese classics, period dramas, British films, new releases. There were these, like, you know, just films that short films that had come out, you know, in 2017, 2018, that were getting a platform on Filmstruck to be seen by the kind of people who were going to like that kind of stuff to begin with. But also, outside of just the films, you're getting the supplements. In certain cases, you would have a full Criterion Collection edition on Filmstruck. You could go, you could watch the movie, you could watch the commentary, you could watch the behind the scenes, the documentaries, the deleted scenes. All that stuff was being presented. And now not every title had that, and they certainly didn't have the entire Criterion back library, and there was a shifting, rotating kind of wheel of films. There'd be certain films that would be expiring on a certain date, and they would come and they would go. And I had great experiences watching films like Man Bites Dog, or The Vanishing, which was just incredible, to Desu Uzala, a film I'd wanted to see for so many years from Akira Kurosawa. Finally got to see it on Filmstruck, and it was an incredible film watching experience. I love that film so much, and I'll never forget that it was Filmstruck that allowed me that avenue to finally see that film that I was so desperately waiting to see, and that was the right moment. But I had been subscribed to Filmstruck from the beginning, but for me, I never really took full advantage of it. Oh, and just as a brief addition to what I was talking about just then, they also created their own supplements. There was their own Filmstruck programming, from hosted intros from film critics and things like that to actual interviews with filmmakers. They did adventures in moviegoing, where they would invite an actor or a director or a filmmaker to come and talk about some of their favorite films, and then you would have little tabs to watch all of those films with hosted intros by Brad Bird or Paul Dano or whoever. Really, really great and interesting stuff, and it just felt like this thing was run by people who loved movies and were really trying to curate this experience in the best possible way. Themed kind of weeks, and I feel like I've already talked about this, but I loved when they would do the double bill on Friday. I mean, they would do like these Tuesdays. I think they would have a short film and then a feature film that had some kind of link between one another. And then I think on Fridays they would do a double bill. And the double bill that killed me was I'm not sure which order they did it in, but they had The Seventh Seal from Bergman and then Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Which I just thought was fantastic. Like, they weren't taking it too seriously. And again, I feel like I am really... I've already talked about this in some video, I'm sure. So apologies for that, but it's just one of those things where I'm trying to be as thorough as possible in saying farewell to Filmstruck. But there was this whole campaign from, I forget the streaming service now, it might have been Mubi, I'm not too sure, but it was like, if you can't tell the difference between Tarkovsky and, you know, and Swan Lake or something like that, it's like, then you don't belong in Mubi. And it's like, well, Filmstruck is like everyone's welcome at Filmstruck. And so there was this whole meme on Twitter where we would post kind of clips from movies that weren't seen as high art and then like put a tag that says it's like some, you know, kind of artsy-fartsy film, in terms of, you know, just kind of linking up fun things here and there. And my contribution to that was a clip of Buster Keaton jumping off a building and splatting on the other side and falling down. And my caption was Mission Impossible Fallout 2018. You know, so, and that got like, that tweet blew up and got, you know, so many, like hundreds of retweets and things, which was really cool. But, you know, Filmstruck, they always felt inclusive and were there for people who were already in the bag for this stuff, but were also there for people who weren't fully versed in any of this stuff. And was a great introductory tool, like, again, themed kind of packages, you know, certain films from this actor, certain films from this director, just really, really great, thoughtful and well put together stuff. Now, as I said, I didn't really get into Filmstruck as much as I wanted to, because for me it was a bit of an upheaval. I would have to go downstairs to my desk, I'd have to kind of unplug all my hard drives, unplug the mouse, unplug the actual laptop from the back of the table where my desk was next to, and then pull that up through the back of the thing, and then pull up the laptop and then take it upstairs, go to the living room, and I have to kind of adjust my laptop, get it in the right spot to get the HDMI cable to plug it into the laptop, and then plug everything back in again, and then bring up Filmstruck and then select which film I wanted to watch, while using a VPN so I could access the US only content, which is the entirety of Filmstruck. And then I'd sit down and watch the film, and it just took a while, and I like just sitting down and watching a film straight away. So I didn't watch as many as I would have liked because of that, and because I was a little bit lazy. Sometimes I would sit down at my desk and watch a film or two. I remember one film I watched was Pather Panchali, one of the best films I think I've ever seen from Satyajit Ray, and that film, you know, I was there at like 2 o'clock in the morning with a blanket wrapped around my legs because I was cold in the kitchen down at the desk, but I was watching this film and loving it. So all those kind of years, actually, I think it was almost 2 years, I was subscribed to the Filmstruck service, and I never made full use of it, you know. So I always felt like I could have gotten more out of it, and I always was pushing it to the back of my mind, you know. My watch list had like 130 films in it, and it's just like, you know, I'll get to it eventually. And then they announced that they were retiring the service. And we do have the Criterion channel coming this year in 2019. I'll talk about that at some other point perhaps. But on Filmstruck, I was gutted. You know, I got a month and a half left of Filmstruck. How am I going to get the time to watch all the films I want to watch? The answer is I'm not. There's no way. Unless I recorded them. So, you know, saying this publicly is almost a bit of a sketchy thing, but I mean, hey, what are they going to do? They don't exist anymore, right? But at the same time, I viewed it very much in the vein of the old days of, you know, recording movies off the TV. And you can do now with your Skybox, you can kind of record films that are being shown on the various channels, and you can record and hold on to that film for as long as you like. That's essentially what I did with Filmstruck. I would set my laptop to record the entire screen, full screen a movie, stick some headphones in so I wouldn't hear the sound of the film, and record a film. And I did this every day in November. So my process was literally wake up in the morning at around 7 a.m., run into the living room, set a movie to record for about 2 hours, go back to sleep until 9 o'clock, get up, get ready for work, have my breakfast, set another film to record, go to work, come back home on my lunch break, and then set another film to record, go back to work for like another 4 or 5 hours, come back home, and then the evenings I would try to actually do stuff on my laptop and edit and things, and then before I go to bed, set another film to record overnight, and I'd have a timer to make sure that it didn't record too much. And I just did this every single day. My laptop was not turned off for a full solid month. And now I have a folder on a hard drive, and I've got the stats here to tell you. 599 gigabytes, 134 films, 6 short films, a number of supplementary material. There's a few of the special features for Still Walking I recorded, the Filmstruck exclusive interview with Tatsuya Nakadai, and a few other bits and pieces. And I had a couple of folders, subfolders for certain directors. I had 7 films by Agnes Varda, 20 Harold Lloyd movies, including a number of short films, and finally 15 films from the Japanese director Mikio Naruse, I believe. So 134 films. The majority of those are in the book 1,000 Movies You Must See Before You Die. Whenever I watch one of those films, I'll more than likely delete it, and then if I want to keep that film, I'll buy it down the line. But that's kind of my little kind of part of preserving Filmstruck, but also a way to actually watch all of these films, because you know, again, I'm talking about recording films while I'm asleep, while I'm in work, and so it was just making use of that time. And some days I would get up to like 5 or 6 films recorded, which was, you know, it was kind of exciting actually. It was like I felt like I was actually doing something positive, making a positive out of the negative, and now I can watch some of those films at some point. Again, knowing me, when am I going to ever get to them? But it's my little act of preserving Filmstruck and kind of going back to those recordings and seeing the page of the poster and the synopsis before the film starts is kind of nice actually. But that's kind of my little you know, last fuck you to Time Warner and my last celebration of Filmstruck. And I feel like, you know, that way, I mean, I was a loyal subscriber every single month, paying the $9.99, and I'd go many months without watching anything. So I feel like I'm owed and deserve those films. I just need to find the time to get to them now. So the second part of this farewell to Filmstruck will be me actually showing you on screen a guided tour of Filmstruck, which seems very kind of, sounds like a morbid kind of thing to do because it's dead now, but just out of, again, preservation, because I really loved Filmstruck and I wanted to kind of just capture that a little bit before it disappeared. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. I was going to read out all the films I recorded, but I don't think I was really interested in that. But suffice it to say, wide variety of stuff, from silent films to, you know, European cinema, world cinema, and American films, British films. So lots to get through at some point. And yeah, Filmstruck. I'll see you in the next part.
He's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans and calling into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.